life philosophy through 12 mystical stories. In this bustling and ever-moving life, each of us sometimes feels lost, as if standing at crossroads unsure of which way to turn. At times, we find ourselves swept away by the whirlpool of time, emotions, and nameless pressures, leaving our souls struggling to find peace. Today, let inner stillness take you into a special space where ancient philosophical stories shine like beacons, guiding us through the darkness of the soul. These are not just traditional tales, but profound lessons in self-awareness, offering us strength and insight to face life's challenges. On this journey, you'll uncover the magical fragments of wisdom, where every word awakens within you clarity and inspiration. Open your heart and prepare for a unique journey full of mystery, meaning, and knowledge. Story 1. Selfishness and its consequences. In a small village, under the dim light of the moon, there lived a woman named Bada, infamous for her stinginess and insatiable greed. She resided alone in a large house, but never opened her doors to anyone. The pleas of the poor and the cries of hungry children outside were met with cold indifference, as if her heart were a void devoid of light. One night, as Bada counted her gold under the flickering light of an oil lamp, an old monk arrived in the village, bearing a mysterious message. He said, "Wealth is but a shadow. It cannot shield you from the flames of selfishness consuming your soul." Bada dismissed the monk's words, but from that night onward, she began to have strange dreams. In her dreams, she saw her house engulfed in flames, not ordinary flames, but those of greed and selfishness. Her possessions and gold vanished in an instant, leaving her alone in the dark. One day, the village was struck by a severe drought. The villagers, desperate and starving, begged for help, but Bada refused, hoarding her granary supplies. That evening, when she opened her rice jars, she found that everything inside had turned to dust. At the same time, the dreams returned, and this time, she heard a voice echoing, "When the fire of selfishness burns within, it consumes not only your possessions, but also your soul." Terrified, Bada sought out the monk to ask for forgiveness. The monk gently said, "Share what you have. Let compassion extinguish the flames within." From that moment, Bada began to change. She opened her granaries and helped the villagers. The gratitude and forgiveness she received from others soothed her heart, and the haunting dreams never returned. Selfishness is like an invisible fire, silently consuming both the soul and our happiness. Only by learning to share and opening our hearts can we find true peace. Bada's story is just one piece of a larger journey toward inner stillness. Join us in the next tale, where compassion not only transforms a person but creates miracles of rebirth and renewal. Story 2. Greed, a dangerous poison. Greed is like a bottomless river. The more you try to fill it, the more you lose. Once, in a bustling town surrounded by mountains, there lived a man named Trong Tien Sin. He was known for his sharp mind and insatiable desire for wealth. To him, gold was not just a means of living but a measure of worth, and he would go to any lengths to acquire more. One day, while exploring the dense forests beyond the mountains, he stumbled upon a cave. Inside, he found a strange, glowing tree with fruits as radiant as jewels. A mysterious inscription on the cave wall read, "Pluck one fruit, and you will gain fortune. Pluck more, and you may lose what you cannot see." Ignoring the warning, Trong plucked one fruit, then another, and another, until his arms were full. As he turned to leave the cave, the earth trembled, and the entrance collapsed, trapping him inside. In the suffocating darkness, he realized that his greed had ensnared him in a prison of his own making. Hours turned to days. Starving and desperate, Trong cried out for help, but no one could hear him. One night, he dreamed of the glowing tree. A voice, both gentle and stern, echoed through the dream. "To escape, you must return what you have taken. Only then will the light guide you." Upon waking, Trong gathered the fruits and placed them back on the tree. As he returned the last fruit, the cave lit up, and the rocks blocking the entrance vanished. Exhausted but relieved, he staggered back to his village, forever changed by the ordeal. Greed is a poison that blinds us to the consequences of our actions. It not only destroys what we hold dear, but also traps us in a cycle of endless desire. The antidote lies in recognizing our limits and learning to let go. Trong Tien Sin's story teaches us about the dangers of greed. But what about the act of letting go? How can releasing our attachments unlock the door to true freedom? Let's unravel this mystery in the next tale. Story 3. Others' attitudes reflect ours. Mirrors do not only exist in reality, but also in the gaze of those around us. Long ago, there was a young man named Han Xian, renowned for his exceptional talent and intelligence. However, he carried a sense of arrogance, believing himself superior to others. Whenever he conversed, Han Xian often looked down on those who disagreed with him or seemed less capable. One day, while wandering through a bustling marketplace, Han Xian encountered an old man selling charcoal. The old man, his face smudged with soot but his eyes sharp and bright, smiled and said to Han Xian, "Young man, do you realize that the gazes of others not only see you but also reflect who you truly are?" Han Xian paused but didn't pay much attention to the old man's words. However, from that day onward, he began to notice something peculiar. The attitudes of those he met seemed to change based on how he behaved. If he acted arrogantly, they distanced themselves or reacted defensively. But when he was humble and attentive, their eyes softened with understanding and goodwill. One night, Han Xian dreamed of standing before a large mirror. Yet, in the mirror, he did not see his own reflection, but the familiar faces of those he had encountered. A voice echoed, "What others reflect is the essence of who you are. Change your perspective, and you will transform the world around you." Upon waking, Han Xian decided to change. He learned to listen, empathize, and treat others with sincerity. From then on, not only did his life become more fulfilling, but those around him began to look at him with respect and affection. The attitudes of others toward us often mirror how we behave. If we want to change how others perceive us, we must first change how we perceive and treat them. Han Xian's story reveals the power of changing one's attitude. But can humility lead us to greater wisdom and enlightenment? Let's uncover this mystery in the next tale. Story 4. Listening, the art of wisdom. In a world filled with noise and haste, silence and the ability to listen are the keys to unlocking the door to wisdom. Long ago, in a distant land, there was a scholar named Sun Zijing, renowned for his vast knowledge. However, he had one significant flaw. He talked too much and rarely listened to others. Whenever someone tried to share their opinions, he would interrupt and impose his own views. One day, Sun Zijing visited a Zen master to seek enlightenment. As they sat together, Sun began to speak endlessly about all the things he had learned. The master listened silently and then gently placed a teacup in front of him. The master began pouring tea into the cup. Even after the cup was full, the master continued to pour, and the tea overflowed onto the table. Alarmed, Sun Zijing exclaimed, "Master, the cup is full. Why are you still pouring?" The master smiled and replied, "Like this teacup, your mind is too full of your own thoughts and opinions. If you do not empty it and listen, how can you take in anything new?" Those words struck Sun Zijing deeply. He realized how much he had missed by refusing to listen. From that day forward, he changed, learning to stay silent and listen attentively to those around him. As a result, he not only grew wiser, but also achieved clarity and peace within his soul. Listening is not just an action, but an art that allows us to open our hearts to the world. Only by listening can we learn, grow, and gain profound understanding. Sun Zijing learned the value of listening. But what about silence? How can silence become an invisible force that helps us achieve great things? The next story will reveal this mystery. Story 5. The Art of Silence. Still waters run deep in silence. All answers reveal themselves. Long ago, in a small village, there lived a father and son who worked as cart makers. The father was a skilled craftsman, renowned for his sturdy and beautiful carts. One day, the two were pulling a newly built cart through the village road for testing. The cart was empty and made loud, echoing noises as it moved. The curious son asked, "Father, why does the empty cart make so much noise?" The father stopped, smiled, and replied, "My son, the emptier the cart, the louder it rattles. People are the same. Those with less understanding often make the most noise to hide the emptiness within themselves." The boy walked in silence, pondering his father's words. Years later, as he grew older, he reflected on this lesson and realized that in silence, one not only understands the world better, but also gains a clearer view of oneself. One day, while meditating under a great tree, he, now a wise and mature man, suddenly understood that in stillness, all the answers he had sought were present, not through words, but in the meaningful spaces between them. True wisdom was born. Silence is not weakness, but a mark of depth. Like the slow flow of a deep river, silence carries an invisible strength, enabling us to listen to the world and discover profound truths. From the art of silence, we move to another lesson. Where does true peace lie? How can we achieve serenity amidst life storms? Let's step into the next story to uncover these truths. Story 6. Self-reliance and overcoming hardships. In adversity, self-reliance is like a torch that illuminates the darkest paths. Long ago, there was a renowned philosopher named Wang Yangming. Despite coming from a wealthy and learned family, he faced numerous challenges throughout his life. One of the most difficult times was his exile to Longchong, a desolate and perilous land. When he arrived in Longchong, Wang Yangming was surrounded by difficulties. He had no family, no resources, and no one to rely on. Instead of succumbing to despair, he reminded himself that every answer he sought lay within himself. One night, sitting under the moonlight by a small stream, he reflected, "If I cannot find light within my soul, no place in this world can save me." From that moment, he began to rebuild himself, cultivating crops, learning, and finding ways to overcome every obstacle. It was during those harsh years in Longchong that Wang Yangming developed his famous philosophy of the unity of knowledge and action, emphasizing that true wisdom lies not only in words but in deeds. When Wang Yangming left Longchong, he had not only survived but also emerged as one of China's greatest philosophers. He demonstrated that self-reliance and unwavering determination can overcome any adversity, no matter how dire the circumstances. In life, adversity is inevitable, but self-reliance is the torch that lights the way. When we learn to draw strength from within, every challenge becomes surmountable, and we emerge stronger. Wang Yangming's story teaches us the power of self-reliance. But what greater possibilities can the light within our souls bring? Let's uncover this in the next tale. Story 7. Finding the cause within. Instead of blaming external circumstances, look deeply into yourself. Every problem in life originates from within. Long ago, there was an eminent Zen master named Nandu Huairang. He often taught that the obstacles and challenges we face do not come from outside but arise from how we react and perceive them. One day, a man came to the Zen master and lamented, "Master, I always feel that people around me are unfair. They obstruct me and make my life full of suffering. How can I change them?" The Zen master remained silent, poured tea into a cup, and then gently asked, "Do you find the tea bitter or sweet?" The man replied, "It's bitter, master." The Zen master smiled and said, "Do you think the bitterness comes from the tea or the water?" The man froze, unable to answer. The Zen master calmly explained, "Tea is just tea, it doesn't change. It is how we receive and perceive it that determines its taste. If you add a little honey, its taste will change. Life is the same. Each event is neutral, and it is your inner state that determines whether it becomes suffering or joy." The man quietly reflected. Over time, he began to focus on changing himself rather than trying to change others. As a result, his life became more peaceful, even though his external circumstances remained the same. Every problem in life originates from within. Instead of trying to change external circumstances, transform yourself. That is the path to liberation and peace. Nanyu Huairang taught that change starts from within. But how can deep understanding transform our lives? The next story will guide you on this journey. Story 8. Benevolence and forgiveness. The greatest door to peace is forgiveness. Long ago, there was a disciple of Confucius named Zilu, known for his fiery temper and fierce sense of justice. One day, while passing through a small village, Zilu encountered a farmer who insulted him. Outraged, Zilu was about to argue, but the farmer's defiance only fueled his anger. When he returned, Zilu recounted the story to Confucius and asked, "Master, how can I keep my peace when faced with those who show me no respect?" Confucius smiled and replied, "Do you know the difference between water and fire?" Zilu was puzzled. "Master, water is cool, and fire is hot." Confucius continued, "Exactly. A single spark can ignite a fire, but water always remains calm. Benevolence is like a cool stream that extinguishes all flames in the soul. Forgiveness is not weakness, but the highest expression of kindness." Inspired by his teacher's words, Zilu returned to the village and apologized to the farmer. His act of benevolence and forgiveness not only dissolved their conflict, but also earned the farmer's respect, transforming him into a loyal friend. Forgiveness not only frees us from anger, but also opens the door to true peace. Benevolence is the strong pillar of morality, and only by learning to forgive can we achieve liberation within our souls. The story of benevolence and forgiveness teaches us about inner peace. But how can gratitude bring even greater strength and joy? Let's delve into the next tale to find out. Story 9. Endurance, a lifelong lesson. In difficulties, patience is like a bridge leading to success. Long ago, there was a brilliant general named Sun Bin. In a power struggle, he was falsely accused by his enemies and imprisoned. They crippled him, rendering him unable to stand or walk like a normal person. Despite the hardship, Sun Bin never lost his resolve. Imprisoned in darkness, he didn't curse his fate. Instead, he used the time to study, refine his strategies, and strengthen his mind. He believed that with patience, an opportunity would eventually arise. After years of enduring adversity, Sun Bin escaped and returned to the battlefield. With the wisdom and resilience he honed during his suffering, he became a legendary strategist, defeated his enemies, and restored his honor. Endurance is not weakness, but the strength to overcome life's greatest challenges. Patience and perseverance are the paths to success and greatness. From the lesson of endurance, we move to another essential virtue, integrity. How can keeping a promise transform a life? The next story will reveal this. Story 10. Keeping promises, the most important value. Integrity is like a light guiding all relationships. Long ago, two close friends vowed that no matter what happened, they would reunite after 10 years at a distant mountain. One of them, burdened by work and family, couldn't leave on time. However, to honor the promise, the other journeyed 3,000 miles to the mountain on the agreed date. Despite harsh conditions, he waited there for weeks. When the friend finally arrived, he was moved to tears. He said, "Your integrity has shown me that human relationships are built on trust. It is a value that cannot be replaced." Their story spread far and wide, becoming a symbol of loyalty and the profound importance of keeping promises in life. Integrity is the foundation of all relationships. It reflects character and serves as a guiding light in life. Keeping promises demonstrates respect and responsibility toward oneself and others. Integrity is the root of trust. But how can trust lead to even greater changes? The next story will guide you to discover this truth. Story 11. Facing fate. What is fate, if not a challenge we must overcome? Long ago, during the Qing dynasty, there was a scholar official named Ji Xiaolan, renowned for his profound knowledge and benevolent heart. Yet, his life was far from smooth. Despite his prominence in the court, he frequently faced unforeseen hardships, from personal losses to political dangers. One day, while traveling through a small village, Ji Xiaolan met an old Taoist priest. The priest, with a contemplative face and eyes that seemed to see through the world, asked him, "Do you believe in fate?" Ji Xiaolan pondered for a moment and replied, "I believe that fate is predetermined, but how we respond to it is what truly matters." The Taoist smiled and shared a story. Long ago, There was a farmer who lived at the foot of a mountain. One day, a great flood swept through, destroying everything he had. The people around him said it was fate, something unchangeable, but the farmer refused to give in. He redirected the water away from the village, restored the land, and turned the barren fields into fertile farmland. When asked why he didn't curse his fate, he replied, "Fate is like a storm. I can let it break me or use it to rise higher." Ji Xiaolan listened, nodding in admiration. He realized that instead of fearing or resenting challenges, one must face them with wisdom and resolve. From that moment, he lived with an unyielding spirit, turning every hardship into a stepping stone for greater success. Fate is not an unchangeable force, but a challenge to discover our strength. Facing fate with patience, wisdom, and determination is the only way to overcome and transform it. Ji Xiaolan's story teaches us to confront fate. But how can we find deeper meaning in adversity? The next story will illuminate this path. Story 12. The Light in the Darkness. Even in the deepest darkness, there is always light. Long ago, in a small village deep in the forest, there lived a young man named Hao Nian. His life was a series of hardships. Orphaned at a young age, he grew up in poverty, toiling endlessly just to survive. One harsh winter, the village was blanketed in snow, and the biting cold left everyone struggling without enough food or warmth. On a freezing night, sitting by a dim, dying fire, Hao Nian felt more hopeless than ever. Looking up at the snowy sky, he wondered, does life still have meaning when all I see is suffering? At that moment, an old man appeared, leaning on his staff as he entered Hao Nian's small hut. Despite his frail body shivering in the cold, his eyes shone brightly like stars. Smiling, the old man said, "Do you see this fire? Though it is small and nearly extinguished, it still gives light and warmth. In the same way, there is always a flame of hope in your heart, no matter how faint it may seem." Those words awakened something within Hao Nian. He stood up, determined not to let the darkness of hardship consume him. He began helping the villagers, sharing food, gathering wood for warmth, and working together to endure the bitter winter. When spring arrived, the village revived, and Hao Nian realized that the faint light of hope had guided him and the entire village through the darkness. No matter how harsh life becomes, the light of hope always resides in every heart. The key is never to let it extinguish, for hope is the torch that leads us through the darkest times. From the lesson of finding light in the darkness, we conclude this journey with a profound message. How can the inner light within each of us become a beacon guiding our lives? Each story is a precious gem, shining brightly in the treasure trove of humanity's wisdom. These lessons are not only for reflection, but also serve as a guiding light, helping us face life's challenges and uncertainties with courage and clarity. Inner Stillness hopes that through this video, you found moments of peace, profound insights, and inspiration to continue your journey of self-discovery. Life may present obstacles, but with wisdom and inner calm, you can overcome anything. If these stories have touched you, please share this video with your loved ones. Together, we can spread the light of peace, compassion, and wisdom far and wide, like small rays of light coming together to form a radiant sun. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next inspiring stories. Inner Stillness is here to walk with you on your journey to uncover the wonders of the soul. See you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring the path to serenity and wisdom together.